Welcome to the jungle. Welcome. It is so good to be here in the prehistoric jungle, and I could not pick a better group to be with me than a bunch of tough people with a little military experience, some legionnaires. Some of you guys are so prepared that you even have animal prints on and jungle prints. Yeah, but I know you guys are going to help me because this jungle is just terrible. All of these animals are bigger than me, they're tougher than me, they have sharp claws, they're fast. Boy, there's so many millions of them, they overwhelm me like ants. But we, my fellow cavemen, have the greatest survival tool in the world, the human brain, with its 5 senses. One of those senses is the most important for taking in all of this information. Which sense do you think that is? Sight. Vision is still the most important sense. Because we're looking around these animals, we can't talk when we're hunting. We need to know when something is ripe enough to eat. Will that mushroom be delicious or poisonous? Hey, there's a rustling in the reeds. There's probably a really juicy bird coming out of it that we can eat. I can't wait to dig my... Okay, well, maybe I won't be eating him, he'll be eating me. As a caveman, when you see an animal that's a tiger is about to eat you, do you compose a paragraph with bullet points and numbered lines, or do you just see it and run? We are still the same humans we were 5,000 years ago. Molecular biologist John Medina, Brain Rules, says we still take in 90% of our information visually. Think about it. Emails, text, vision, reading faces. You go to these big conferences and you meet hundreds of people. How many of their names do you remember? 3 or 4, maybe, if you're me? How many faces do you recognize later? Most of them. You'll recognize most of the faces. I call that the Hunchback of Notre Dame syndrome. Do you remember him? When he fell to his death and the crowd stood over him and said, I don't know his name, but his face rings a bell. Was that my out loud voice? I wanted to see if the people in the back were still watching. And when you put all those words up, everybody reads at a different speed. So I might be reading at line 7. The person next to me is on line 3. The speaker's on line 2. You're not adding a visual to the sound. You're trying to shove a bunch of peas into a straw at the same time. People get annoyed and they block it out. It's snowing. As a former teacher, you may know what that means. You're in that classroom teaching up a storm. Your words are great. You're talking, and then what happens? Snowflakes start falling. Some kid yells out, "It's snowing!" Where's the focus of your speech now? It's gone. It's out the window. Vision trumps everything. And motion, visual motion, trumps even that. 30 million people, this is worldwide they're talking about. But the way our brains work is, okay, here's 5, here's 10. Who can show me 30 million? Anybody? We can't fathom it. Have you ever been to the Science Museum where they had that million dots? In there, there's a science museum in Richmond, and it's like, here's 1 dot, here's 10, and it takes a whole wall to make a million. We really can't comprehend numbers like 30 million. They're just too big, they don't make sense. $12 trillion in debt. It's 12 trillion, I can't picture that. So what you might do is take it down to a smaller number, this slide. Instead of saying 30 million people, 3.6 seconds a person dies of hunger. Now you can picture it. 1001, 1002, 1003, another kid just died. Another thing we can do with slides is to take advantage of the way our brains like stories. So just like a movie would have an opening establishing shot, I might put a visual up there without words. I'm about to tell you a story. What's the story going to be about? Just from looking at the slide. It's snowing. What time of year is it? Winter. Where does it take place? Okay, now I haven't said a word, but already, not only is the picture worth 1,000 words, but more importantly, your mind is working, your mind's engaged. You're thinking, what's this guy going to talk about? Snow, Christmas, caught in the woods, attacked by a bear. And if your mind gets engaged by that, you are far more likely to stay awake. Let me give you a story. I always loved when my birthday came because my mom would bake my favorite pie. Before the gifts came, I could smell it cooking in the oven. And when she took it out, it was the flour, the moist flour smell, and the cinnamon and the nutmeg. It just come through the air and would grab me by the nose and lead me. And the juicy filling was so wonderful. What's my favorite pie? What's that? Apple. Okay, apple has cinnamon and nutmeg in it. What else could it be? Peach, pumpkin. Sweet potato. Yeah, you guys got them all. Great. Good job. Give yourselves a hand. Okay, now, of course, my favorite pie is actually pumpkin, but it's better that each one of you envisioned in your head your favorite pie, or whichever pie you chose, because that's what makes it more memorable when your mind is actively engaged. As Lisa said, there's two speeches going on. There's these words that come out of my mouth and they bounce off your ears. And then there's the second speech, the important one that's going on in your brain, where you're imagining and you're reliving and living, and it's personal to you. And then the speech will be more effective and far more memorable. In conclusion, it is a jungle out there, so I will see you all back at the cave. Have a great night.